Hi you guys, and welcome back to the Mama Monologues.
In honor of World Breastfeeding Week, we decided to share our personal breastfeeding stories with you guys, so we hope you enjoy them. Okay, so Karissa and I are both pretty passionate about breastfeeding, and I feel like we both have individual unique stories that others can relate to. It's not always just this like instant, natural, sweet, idea that I kind of felt like I had before. And so don't get discouraged, I guess, and you'll see that like everyone's in it together, and everyone, even though the stories are different, we all gone through kind of the same thing when it comes to nursing. So
this is gonna sound mean. Having Rhea go through, first of all, like her idea of a horror story labor, but we'll save that for a first story video. Yeah. It helped me because I was expecting to be like squirting out blood everywhere and like have my nipple gone and like all that, but it really did help me. I wish that you didn't go through that, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But like no one tells you what could happen. Well, here's the fun thing. I craved like pizza really bad with Brielle, and I would go to the same pizza place in town like once a week. I went in one time and the lady goes, so have you been pinching your nipples? Oh God, no, why? She's like, gotta get them ready for breastfeeding. And I was like, what in the world? So people do say things like that, like warn you that it's gonna hurt, but I don't think anyone like tells you how bad it can get. Right after she was born, we had skin to skin. I still don't remember much. But I know that there's pictures of me like right after with her latched on, so she must have been eating immediately. I kind of just have these visions of like looking at her and it being like, oh, so magical. After everyone kind of went away and the nurses like stopped coming in as often, I remember trying to do it by myself and I literally couldn't get her to latch. The poor nurses. I swear to you that every single time she ate in the hospital, I'm fairly certain that somebody else latched her for me.
Oh.
I could not figure it out. I remember them telling me it's like a hamburger. I don't know what my problem was. I don't really think it was Brielle. Somebody was in our room at all times, which is amazing, and I would never change it because I know how excited everyone was. But I feel like with our next child, I need to be more aware of getting rest and really focusing on nursing, because the lactation specialist did come in and help. But you know what? I feel like they didn't help as much as just the regular nurses helped me. The lactation specialists were very just kind of busy and didn't all seem really there. And now these are the ones that are in the hospital, not like the ones that work privately like hers did. They told me absolutely do not give her a pacifier. I just felt like stupid, which I already felt stupid because I couldn't figure it out. And then they kind of made me feel a little bit more stupid. So I would just call the nurses. I kind of gave up on the lactation consultant. And it was the nighttime that was worse because Brielle from the very beginning ate for a really long time. She would eat for like 30 or 45 minutes at a time from the very beginning. Okay, so we had her at like 10:17 that night. So I got to stay that night in the delivery room. But it meant that there weren't any like limits to when people came. So we had people in there until like 2 o'clock in the morning, seriously. But that second night, we again had people all day. Brielle just woke up and I thought she was hungry, so I would try to nurse her and I couldn't latch her, so the nurse came in and latched her for me, and then she'd pull off and then she'd have to come back. Oh my gosh, she was crying and crying and crying. I couldn't really like just get up and try to soothe her or anything. And my husband is like a very deep sleeper, and he like was sleepwalking and sleep talking. What the heck is wrong? And then the nurse finally came in. She said, I don't think she's hungry. I think she's just crying. She said, do you want me to get her a pacifier? I was like, no. The lactation consultant said no. She's like, it's not gonna hurt her. And so she, swaddled her up for me and gave her a pacifier, and finally she soothed, and she was so sweet. She's like, I'm just doing paperwork in the hall if you want me to wheel her out, and she can sit by me while you get some sleep, because I was just crying hysterically. And I think it was that night that it hit me how much pressure and emotionally draining breastfeeding was going to be. And so we actually stayed an extra night. So that's something else I would recommend. If you don't feel, even if you feel fine physically, if you feel like you need to have another night there with the nurses helping you or the lactation consultants helping you, stay another night. Yeah. But if you have good insurance and you're not in a rush, don't rush going home. Because once you're home and you're alone. And when we came home, I just remember walking through the door and feeling so weird. So I remember taking her back into her nursery and sitting on the glider, and I could not get her to latch. I think she was just frustrated because my milk hadn't come in and she wasn't getting anything. I don't know. Oh, I just felt so overwhelmed. So I think like that first week, Jake had to latch her all the time. And then I started using the nipple shield. It hurt, but not nearly as bad. And of course they're raw and fiery. I think that's what's to be expected. To me, that kind of really intense pain stopped at about 2 weeks. My milk didn't come in until the 5th day. And so that was stressful for me. I was sure that it was never gonna come in. And I was sure I was starving her because she had jaundice and she was losing a lot of weight. She would wake up, of course, like every 2 hours and nurse. And I just remember that time, like waking up in the middle of the night and staring at Jake and being like, you stupid little brat. If I had to be awake nursing, then everyone had to be awake nursing. And I remember my mother-in-law telling me, just think when you're up at night nursing, or just think Rhea's probably awake nursing Drew, and you know, my cousin Corey's awake nursing Brady probably. And that helped me a lot. And I would try to come into, because I felt like I couldn't leave my room for some reason, which is stupid, so I tried to come into the living room and like watch a show while I did it. Or we were both a part of mom's group, so I would go on my phone to like the forum and just, you know, everyone was awake because everyone has to feed their kid. And so that helped me just to remember that I wasn't alone, because I got a little bit of baby blues and it was all revolved around nursing. She ate every 2 hours for a long time. And like I said, she ate for a long time each feeding. And I didn't pump actually until she was probably like 6 months old. And I went back to work a couple days a week. It was so stressful because I was the only one that could do it.
Right.
And I think next time around I'm gonna pump more from the beginning and have Jake feed her. At that age, that's when the bonding takes place, no matter how you feed. The day Jake went back to work was like the worst day ever. And I had been using the nipple shield for like 3 days. But in my head at the time, I think I started reading crap on the internet, which don't do. But I was convinced that she was gonna get addicted to it and be on it forever and ever and ever. And I tried for 1 day and she didn't want to. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to use this forever. And she's not, because it slows down the flow. She's not getting enough milk, she's starving. And then the next day I woke up and I fed her without it and she did it just fine. But weird things like that, just nursing was so emotionally draining for me. And actually the shield is, I believe, what helped Brielle's latch. But yeah, we nursed for 13 months. It was such like a blessing to be able to provide her so much, you know, food and not have to pack things.
If it's just too much emotionally, and I know I have family, I have friends who this has happened to, don't try to be a martyr. If you can afford formula, if that's an option for you, and if breastfeeding just isn't working out, whether it's physically or emotionally, no one's judging you.
I think for me though, I went in saying, I'm gonna feed her for a year, I'm gonna nurse her for a year, and I don't really wanna give her any formula. And I did it. I didn't have as many setbacks, but in my head that was the only option, and I was willing to do whatever it took. My sister-in-law exclusively pumped for a whole year because she was determined to feed, you know, my niece breast milk, and I think that's awesome. But you know your limits, and don't ruin your life in your first year with your child by how they eat, because if they're eating, they're gonna be fine.
Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. We hope that you enjoyed our stories, and we hope that you are able to relate in some way, or you're able to take some of this information and use it to help you in your journey of breastfeeding.
Right, and we want to try to do a breastfeeding essentials video to add to World Breastfeeding week/month, so be on the lookout for that. And leave us comments about your breastfeeding stories. If there's anything that you experienced that would help other people, leave it in the comments. Make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And have a good week. Bye. Daylight's coming and I wanna go.